distance. Ya, kamu bisa cek bagian matanya, mulutnya, kepalanya, bagian kakinya, tubuhnya, kamu cek begitu. Kemudian kamu sambil tanya, ada anamnesis, history communication ya di situ. Apa keluhannya dan macam-macam itu akan terungkap di sana. Kemudian periksa yang di belakang, ya dari belakang dulu. Ya, mukosa, eh, apa, vulva atau reproduksinya, kemudian nanti periksa, itu jadi ke samping ya, bagian abdomennya, di situ. Fossa paralumbar Anda bisa cek motilitasnya gitu ya, frekuensi kontraksinya, motilitas itu frekuensi kontraksi itu pada bagian depan itu beberapa yang bisa diperiksa. Jadi itu tahapan-tahapannya ya. Jadi dari belakang itu ada yang bisa Anda lakukan, terus ke samping kiri ke depan. Nanti ambing kalau dia betina itu bisa dicek ya, the udder and milk vein apa itu bisa dicek nanti sana. Apa ada perubahan, ada pembesaran kelenjar limfe, ya lymph node begitu. Nah, di bagian itu Anda bisa cek juga auscultation of heart sound, ya, ada caranya, teknik detail ada di petunjuk praktikum, ya. Nah, di situ Anda bisa dengarkan, ya, di lapangan memang kondisinya begini. Tapi waspadai betul, Anda harus betul-betul bisa handling restraint dengan baik, ya, supaya Anda aman, tidak kena tendang, tidak kena injek dan lain-lain, karena dia besar, ya. Nah, itu Anda cek respiratory sound, kemudian Anda cek trachea-nya, misalkan barangkali ada ronchi, abnormal respiratory sound di situ. Nah, kemudian ini Witherspoon test, ya. Jadi Anda remas bagian punggungnya tadi. It should be ventroflexion. Jadi dia harus merendah itu anunya, normal, gitu ya. Nah, ini periksa pingnya, coba dicek apakah ada kembung, misalkan begitu, atau di area bawah, ya gitu. Ada kemungkinan left displace abomasum, Anda cek. Nah, itu kombinasi antara percussion and auscultation, ya. Ini Anda bisa cek secara eh, suara-suara yang muncul di situ ya. Dengan teknik sukusi tadi ada splash sound, ada apa cairan yang terdengar di sana. Kemudian pindah ke sisi yang kanan. Ya, baik dari belakang, kaki depan mungkin bisa mulai atau dari kaki belakang bisa mulai ya. Terserah. Nah, ini ke belakang, dari kaki depan ke belakang. Nah, harusnya tidak ada suara di bagian itu. Ping maksudnya. Kalau ada bunyi ping di sana, kembung, it should be apomasal dilation. Ya, atau right displace abomasum. Kalau di atas ya dilated caution, cecum, ya. Nah, itu di bagian situ kemungkinan bisa abomasal. Kalau dia sampai kembung di sana itu tidak ada. Nah, kemudian ke leher, dada, ya, brisket itu bagian dada. Biasanya kalau dia ada RPT, dia akan besar, bengkak sekali, edem gitu ya. Termasuk ada edema di submandibula juga begitu. Coba dicek. Kita cek bagian kepala, ya. Ada nistagmus apa tidak itu bisa dicek dengan begini, dimiringkan, cek mulutnya mungkin nanti bisa dibuka, ada gangguan di bagian nasal, sorry apa namanya sinus-sinus di bagian baik itu nasal, frontal macam-macam ya di sana. Kalau dia ada keluhan utama biasanya suaranya ada nasal discharge biasanya nanti situ. Kemudian kita cek ke jugular vein. Tekniknya ada di eh, petunjuk praktikum. Jadi kalau Anda tekan, kemudian dia harus segera kembali. Nah, ini skin tenting atau turgor kulit bisa dicek. Tidak boleh lebih dari 2 detik ya. Jadi harus segera kembali ke posisi normal. Nah, kemudian bagian rongga mulutnya bisa dicek apakah ada lesi, ada radang, ada macam-macam, ada perubahan gigi dan seterusnya nanti bisa dicek di situ. Ya. Khususnya kalau di Indonesia nanti dengan PMK ya, FMD ya, especially for FMD detection. Nah, biasanya ada, tapi tanda awal biasanya adanya liur, banyak banyak hiperselivisi, ya, banyak liur itu tanda bahwa ada problem di rongga mulut. Nanti Anda bisa periksa di sana. Pemeriksaan yang lain adalah kuda. Jadi pada apa namanya, kuda hati-hati karena dia Anda tidak boleh berada di belakangnya langsung. Ya, jadi kalau itu sangat berbahaya kuda, maka berdirinya agak di sampingnya.
I'm Dr. Andy Canops of Canops Equine. Today, we're going to discuss lameness examinations of your horse. What we look for in a lameness examination.
Ini di pemeriksaan kuda basic, ini basic. Sorry.
Fairly depressed type of mentation, so all that is.
Ya, jadi ini examination. Ya, pada kuda basic ya examination sama.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Shell, New Veterinary Research. Today is one of our first videos we're doing for educational purposes. Today's video's topic is going to be just doing an overall evaluation or examination of the horse for all intents and normal purposes. I think that these bits of information are important for the average horse owner to be able to detect what problems might be present, to evaluate the heart for elevations of heart rate, maybe low heart rates that maybe accompany things like colic, to be able to listen to the abdomen itself in terms of gut sounds, again for evaluation of colic, looking at various lumps and bumps. It's basically just the basics of what I think every horse owner should know if they're going to own a horse, to be able to evaluate from the basics, maybe to help kind of cut back on some of the veterinary expenses, to know when to call the vet out, when not to call the vet out. So, with that being said, one of the first things we look at from a vet's point of view, looking at these horses, is just their general demeanor. We also look at their body condition. It's helpful in a different array of situations, again, depending on what this patient is present for. But we'll kind of get an idea of what their mentation is. Are they alert? Are they responsive? Are they depressed? A lot of times if we're running a fever or even with colics, they've got their ears back, heads dropped down, fairly depressed type of mentation. So all that is kind of important and a little bit of a piece of the puzzle that we put together. But looking at the eyes, how wide open are they? In some cases we can look at the whites of the eyes and we'll see discoloration, things like a yellow color that might be indicated with an anemia or a type of liver problems. We're looking at both of the nares here to make sure that both are patent and that we're blowing air equally out of both of the nostrils, that we're not wide open, which might go along with a horse that's having a hard time breathing. So we're just looking for normal types of situations here with the eyes, the mentation, the nares. You can lift up the upper lip and looking into the gums. We're looking for a nice pink color. Generally, we're a little bit of a darker pink around the tooth margins there itself. But we're looking for a nice pink color. It's moist. In the veterinary world, we're talking about capillary refill time, or CRT. And that is basically assessed by taking our fingers, pushing in on the gums right here to where we make it go blanch white, and then it gradually turns back to a pink. And that's an indication of capillary blood flow to those areas. When we blanch down on it, it turns white. When we release, it should turn back to a nice pink color, generally within 2 to 3 seconds tops. That's normal. Anything that's prolonged from that generally indicates that maybe we're dehydrated, we've got poor blood flow due to various reasons. So normal refill time is about 2 to 3 seconds. And the normal color of the mucous membrane should be pink and a nice moist feel to them. So moving on from there, obviously looking at the body condition of the animal, the other thing that we will do is start to evaluate the heart rate, and we will do that now. All right, so now we're going to evaluate the cardiovascular system, mainly looking at the heart rate. The easiest thing to do, you can pick up a stethoscope, at any veterinary supply warehouse. You can go to local pharmacies. In a lot of the case, they will have lower grade nurse quality stethoscopes. Really anything will do, so it doesn't have to be the top of the line stethoscope. But what we're going to be doing is listening to the heart of these guys. The easiest access point for the heart, or the auscult, or listen to the heart in a horse, is behind the left elbow. The heart is closest to the chest wall on the left-hand side, so we're able to hear it better. You have to remember the average heart rate of a horse is generally between 35 to 40 beats per minute. It's not the fastest thing in the world, so it takes a little bit of time to be able to listen to it because the horses, because of how large their chest is, the heart tends to be a little bit muffled, a little bit quieter, so it is very helpful if you have a quiet environment when you're listening to it. But it's going to be at a very, very slow pace. The heart itself, what you're going to hear in the horse is basically, we've got two heart sounds itself. It's basically a lub-dub type of thing. And the lub-dub is one heartbeat. And again, what you're going to do is find the heart rate, watch your watch. Generally, I will watch for about 15 seconds, listen to the heart, count off how many times we're beating in 15 seconds, multiply it by 4, and then we've got our heart rate per minute. So again, average horse is between 35 to 40, and we're going to take a listen to him. So we put our stethoscope in, and we will place it behind the left elbow, kind of tucked inside, firmly up against the chest wall, and you should be able to hear your heartbeat. In some cases, it does take a little bit of manipulating to find that exact spot that you can hear it the best in. You can go up, down, a little bit further towards the front or a little bit back towards the rear. But you should be able to find it, be able to hear it fairly well in most horses. The larger the horse, the more body weight they are carrying, the harder sometimes it can be to actually hear the heart, the more focused you have to be on listening to it. So what is the importance of listening to the heart or evaluating the heart rate in a horse? Generally, number one, it's an indication of fitness. The more fit these horses are, such as a racehorse such as this, we generally have lower heart rates, sometimes as low as 28 beats per minute. It's a reflective of how fit or how healthy they are. Horses that are experiencing pain or illness, anemias, that type of conditions, heart rate's going to go up. When we're dealing with colicky horses that are painful, we will use this heart rate as an indicator of how bad or how critical of a situation we are dealing with. The higher the heart rate, it equates to the more pain the animal is feeling, which then equates to potentially more of a severe problem that we're dealing with inside of the belly itself. But that holds true as well with any other type of condition. We can have a horse with an acute fracture or an acute bow or tear in the tendon, even a trauma type of situation. Evaluate the heart rate. Heart rate generally is going to be above that 40 beat per minute mark, which is going along with pain. So we'll use that heart rate as an indicator of pain. We also use it as a reflective indicator of how we're doing with our pain management versus, in terms of pain medications. Are we getting that heart rate to come down? Is the horse stable? Is the horse feeling better? That kind of jazz. So we've got heart rate covered. You can auscultate the lungs themselves as well, just by working up into this area. There's different areas of the chest that we will listen to for cases of things like COPD or asthma. We're listening for different sounds. It's a little bit kind of hard to explain in a video such as this, but these are the general areas that we will auscultate or listen to the lungs themselves. Moving into the abdomen, in terms of evaluation for colics, the first thing we'll generally look at in terms of a colic when they present, looking at the abdomen itself is do we have a bloated or a distended abdomen? And we'll look from the side. Generally, we'd like to see a nice indentation here in the flanks. Looking for normal types of situations. We'll also evaluate them from the rear, visually looking at them to see, are we more round than what we should be? Are we more distended? Does it seem to be lopsided? Are we an apple type of shape? Do we have any gaseous distension of the abdomen? So that's the first thing we'll start to auscultate or to evaluate. In terms of ausculting or listening to the abdomen for colic type of purposes, we essentially break the belly up into 4 sections. We've got an upper left quadrant, lower left quadrant, upper right quadrant, lower right quadrant. Why do we do that? Because essentially we have different sections or components of the intestines that are in different locations. So we mark them off by location, listening for sounds that they're moving, that they're making.
Jadi secara topografi, perhatikan dia membagi 4 area, ya. Jadi di bagian kiri atas bawah, bagian kanan juga atas bawah. Nanti untuk pemeriksaan kemarin sudah kita bicarakan di diagnosa klinik itu dibagi 4, ya. Depan kiri depan atas, kiri depan bawah, kiri depan kiri belakang atas, kiri belakang bawah. Demikian juga yang di kanan juga begitu sama. Jadi untuk tujuannya untuk membagi area organ-organ yang ada di sana, sehingga akan Anda mau cari apa mudah di situ. Ya, ini sama juga demikian sama pemeriksaannya.
Making their normal happy sounds that they should be, and so we can kind of help to identify where potentially the problem is at. When we're looking at the upper left quadrant here, we're mainly dealing with small intestinal type of noises. The lower left quadrant is the left dorsal colon, or the left large colon, I'm sorry. The upper right quadrant is the cecum. The lower right quadrant is the right large colon, essentially. So when we listen to these areas, we'll move around, going left, listening for a lot of gurgling noises here that might be associated with the small intestines. Move down to the lower left quadrant, which will help us to kind of give some noises associated with the large colon in this area. On the right side, again, we've got the cecum up in the top. The cecum itself kind of makes a little bit of a dripping type of noise. It's almost like a metal can with a little bit of water in it. If you ping that can, it kind of has a little bit of a resonant type of sound to it. And then again, we'll listen to the bottom right quadrant, listening for large intestinal or large colon sounds itself. In addition to the colic workups, most veterinarians will do a rectal examination to feel whether if there's any displacements, any movements along those lines that are abnormal or atypical for that animal itself. One of the other things that we will do to assess whether if we have gas buildup is that we will place our stethoscope and we will ping around it with our fingers. Now the purpose of the pinging is we're sending in a sound vibration that will a lot of times interface with gas and create a pinging type of noise back to us. If we have just normal gas moving through the intestinal tracts, most of the time we won't get a consistent ping back. But if we have, for instance, over where the cecum's at, if the cecum becomes contorted or is compromised in any way, shape, or form and begins to build gas, such as a balloon, we can consistently ping all the way around it. And we can kind of help to identify where that organ's at. The pinging sound stays pretty consistent. It's not moving around. And so it helps us to identify potentially what organ's involved and maybe even potentially what the problem is. So that's evaluating the intestinal tract. The other main thing that we will do with these guys, obviously, as part of the physical examination, is taking their temperature. And we're going to cover that here in a second.
Kita cek temperaturnya, hati-hati posisinya, ya.
All right, so taking the temperature of a horse can be a little bit of a tricky thing in some cases. For all intents and purposes, we generally use a glass mercury thermometer, at least I do myself. The digital thermometers are okay. You tend to need to penetrate a little bit deeper with those guys to get an accurate reading, so I tend to use the glass thermometers. The drawbacks to these things are is that they are glass. You need to be very careful with them, make sure that they do not break off while you're shaking them down, make sure they do not break off inside of the horse. Could be a bad thing. So we need to hang on to these things to make sure they don't break. When we're taking the temperature of the horse, I highly recommend hanging on to the end of this because in some cases they will suck it in, and then we have to either go in after it or keep our fingers crossed that they pass it in a bowel movement.
Meskipun itu sudah jarang ada termometer yang lama, yang bentuk kaca itu, biasanya dia juga ada air raksa, ada yang dari alkohol ya, sebetulnya, yang merah itu alkohol. Tapi resikonya kalau kaca tadi itu bisa saja pecah ya pada saat Anda mengibaskan itu, atau Anda taruh di rektumnya, masuk dan dia bergerak, kemudian Anda pegangi, tertekuk dan pecah, jadi masalah. Kemudian kalau Anda tidak pegangi, dia akan terhisap sampai ke dalam rektum, juga masalah gitu ya. Sehingga memang yang terbaru ya pakai digital termometer gitu ya.
So hang on to these guys and be careful with them. When you've got a glass thermometer, you need to shake it down. You're essentially shaking the mercury down into the tip and you're looking for a reading.
Menggunakan termometer yang lama ini memang harus kita kibaskan ya, sampai kemudian air raksanya itu ada di bawah skala normal. Kalau pakai digital termometer tidak perlu, tinggal Anda tekan saja, tombol diaktifkan, dia baru nyala, kemudian bisa dipakai. Kalau ini tidak, Anda harus kibaskan. Sampai yakin bahwa air raksanya atau tanda skalanya dari alkohol itu di bawah skala. Kemudian Anda baru masukkan dan tidak boleh dilepas-lepas sampai kira-kira 1 menit. Yang dia kemudian kita anggap tidak ada perubahan peningkatan suhu, baru Anda lepas, Anda lihat. Ya. Tapi kalau menggunakan digital thermometer itu ada indikatornya. Jadi kalau dia sudah tidak ada peningkatan suhu, maka akan bunyi. Tandanya tidak ada lagi peningkatan suhu. Kemudian Anda bisa lepas dan dilihat berapa. Ini perbedaan antara termometer digital yang baru dengan yang lama, yang konvensional.
Very, very low, generally around 94, which is a good starting point. Before I take the temperature of any horse, because they're not used to having things put up their rear ends back there, we need to be a little bit cautious for our sake and theirs. I will generally take a finger, run it underneath the tail, and kind of manipulate back here in the rectal area, even shoving a finger into their anus if I need to, just to let them know this is what I'm going to do. It helps me to evaluate how's that horse going to handle it, is he going to kick at it, is he going to dance all over the place, what's he going to do. So if he's tolerating my finger okay, then I will just use any everyday KY jelly type of deal, and you're going to stick your thermometer into the KY, get some on there, and we are going to then reach underneath here, pull the tail head up, insert our thermometer into the rectum. Again, we're going to go in probably 3/4 of the way. I'm just going to hang on to the tip of this as it's in there, and we're going to wait probably a good 2 to 3 minutes. Ideally, again, it's dependent on the horse. Sometimes they're only going to give you a minute or two tops before they're dancing all over the place. We run the risk of losing this or breaking it off inside, and so we just get the best time that we can. Ideally, is about 2 to 3 minutes. We're going to pull it out. The mercury thermometers can be a little bit tricky to read. You just have to kind of rock this guy back and forth until you can see where that mercury lies. I do not recommend coming in directly behind a horse and just popping the thermometer in there. It's just not going to happen very much in most cases, and you run the risk of getting kicked. So always from the side, I generally keep an arm on the hip at the very least, so I know what this leg is doing. If my eyes aren't on it, take the temperature, and away we go. Okay, so we just got done doing a basic physical examination of the horse. We talked about the mentation. We talked about looking at the nares, looking at the mouth, determining capillary refill time, the point that the gums should be a nice pink color and moist in color with a refill time generally of 2 to 3 seconds. We discussed listening to the heart, the impact and the importance of the heart rate, how it relates to colics and pain. And we also talked about listening to the abdomen, normal sounds, pinging, gas accumulation, and the impact on colics. And we also discussed how to safely take a body temperature of a horse, which I did forget to mention. The normal temperature from my point of view is around 100.6 to 101. Again, you have to take into consideration the status of that horse. Did we just get done running around a pasture? What is the outside environment like? So we need to kind of take all that into consideration with that body temperature, but a normal temperature generally is about 100.6 to 101. Anything above that should be considered abnormal in my books. But I feel that all this information is very important and that every horse owner should know this information. Reason being is that if they have a crisis situation or what they perceive to be as a crisis situation, they can evaluate the horse initially, determine what our heart rate is hopefully, determine what we're doing in terms of the belly. Are we making gas sounds? Are we not making gas sounds? What the body temperature is, what the mentation of this horse is, what his gums look like, so that they can kind of make an assessment. Is this a real critical situation? Do I need to call the vet now? Or at the very least, when they do talk to their veterinarian, they can pass this information on to him or her, and over the phone, making maybe help to guide the client as to what needs to be done next and whether if an actual farm call is needed. So,
ya, jadi meskipun kita tidak akan mempraktekkan yang di kuda, tapi ini harus Anda perlu tahu ya proses pemeriksaannya beberapa. Tapi yang penting begini, Anda harus tahu perilaku hewan. Jadi itu butuh pelajaran tersendiri dan harus tahu bagaimana nanti Anda harus menghandling hewan tadi itu dengan baik dan benar sehingga tidak ada kesalahan termasuk mencelakai diri Anda sendiri. Jadi pada kuda berbeda, nanti pada sapi caranya juga berbeda, handling restrainnya. Di hewan-hewan liar apalagi begitu juga berbeda ya. Jadi Anda harus punya kemampuan untuk menghandling restrain dengan baik, baru bisa melakukan pemeriksaan dengan baik. Kalau tidak begitu nanti bahaya untuk Anda dan bahaya untuk si pasien, si hewan tadi itu. Nah, lebih detail nanti ada di praktikumnya hands-on, itu ada di petunjuk praktikum, pelajari di sana. Minggu depan kita akan praktik di kandang. Kelompoknya nanti malam akan saya share gitu ya. Baru Anda akan lihat untuk 10 kelompok ke depan. Jadi ada 20 kelompok tapi 2 kelompok tiap minggu gitu ya. Kemudian tiap-tiap pekan ya akan ada kegiatan di luar hands-on. Anda harus lakukan sendiri dry praktikum, kemudian diikuti modul untuk sekitar 4 atau 5 hari untuk mengerjakan modul tadi itu. Kamis berikutnya ada modul yang baru dan seterusnya nanti begitu. Oke, mudah-mudahan bisa dipahami. Saya coba share sedikit dari presensinya. Ya. silakan absen share ya. Ini jadi kalau tidak bisa nanti saya share di chatnya sebentar. Di chat. Ya, Anda tinggal pencet di sana. Sorry. Ya, silakan.